Welcome back to Justice Insight Cam. We bring you unfiltered, real-world police interactions recorded straight from body cameras. Moving beyond the video, we analyze the facts, legal boundaries, and critical takeaways from each case. Let us explore the reality of justice.
Who does this SUV belong to?
It's mine.
No, I'm serious. Whose vehicle is this?
I just told you, it's registered to me.
You think I'm dumb enough to believe someone like you owns a Porsche like this?
You can run the plates.
Step away from the vehicle right now. Luxury car theft is high around here, and someone like you standing next to this...
Body cam footage activates mid-step. Not at the patrol car, but already on the sidewalk. The scene is busy, but controlled. A commercial district just outside downtown. Restaurants open, pedestrian flow is steady, ballet attendants moving between vehicles, and parked directly at the curb in front of a high-end office building is a black Porsche SUV. Engine off, driver door closed, but standing beside it is a man, black male, early 40s business attire, tailored navy suit, sunglasses, phone in one hand, key fob in the other. He isn't pacing nervously, isn't looking around suspiciously. He's waiting calmly, the posture of someone expecting a meeting, not avoiding attention. But across the street, a patrol cruiser slows, because from the officer's perspective, the visual reads differently. Luxury vehicle, black man standing beside it. No immediate entry, no visible valet ticket, no plates run yet. An assumption fills the gaps where verification should go. The cruiser snaps into the curb. Door opens. Body cam jolts as the officer steps out. Posture already tense before contact begins. No greeting, no introduction offered. Hand resting near his holster as he approaches. The man notices him immediately, but doesn't react defensively. Just watches calmly. Waiting. You waiting on the owner? The officer asks. No hello, no context, just accusation disguised as a question. The man lowers his sunglasses slightly. I am the owner. The officer stops walking, studies him longer now, then glances at the Porsche, then back at him, expression tightening. Yeah, he says skeptically. Yes. The officer circles slightly toward the rear of the SUV. Scanning plates, trim badge, condition, a luxury trim, dealer tag still on the frame. He comes back around, still unconvinced. Mind telling me whose vehicle this is? He asks again. It's mine, the man repeats calmly. The officer exhales through his nose. Step away from the vehicle. The request comes fast, unexplained. The man blinks once. I'm sorry, I said. Step away from the vehicle. The man complies without arguing. Calm, measured steps back onto the sidewalk, hands visible. Because he can feel the escalation starting, and he understands it. Clears throat. You got ID? The officer asks. Yes. Registration? Yes. Then why are you just standing here instead of getting in? I'm waiting for someone from the building. The officer tilts his head slightly, suspicion deepening instead of easing. You expect me to believe that? He asks. The man pauses. I'm not sure what you mean. The officer gestures toward the Porsche because cars like this usually don't belong to your kind. Silence detonates on the sidewalk. Pedestrians slow slightly. A valet attendant looks over. Phones begin lifting subtly. Before we go any further, comment where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. The man exhales slowly, not reacting emotionally, just processing the statement. My kind? He repeats calmly. The officer shrugs. You know what I mean? No, the man replies evenly. I don't explain it. The officer ignores the request. Instead, he steps closer to the vehicle again, peering through the tinted glass. Keys, he says. The man lifts the key fob slightly. Right here. Hand them over. The man doesn't move immediately. Is there a reason? To verify the vehicle isn't stolen. There it is. Direct now. No more implication. You think I stole my own car? The man asks calmly. I think people steal cars like this every day, the officer replies. and you decided that applied to me. You fit the scenario. What scenario? The officer gestures again. Suit, watch, car, this scenario. The man studies him quietly, then says, I can show you registration. Do that, the officer replies. The man reaches slowly inside his jacket pocket. The officer's hand instantly moves closer to his weapon. Slow. I'm moving slow. Keep one hand visible. The man retrieves his wallet carefully, removes the license and registration card, hands them over. The officer studies the documents. Name matches the plate. Plate matches the VIN. Registration, active insurance, current address, local. Everything checks. But suspicion hasn't left his posture yet because bias doesn't dissolve with paperwork. It looks for new angles. You just buy this? He asks. Yes. Cash? No. Financing. With what job? Executive administration. The officer raises an eyebrow. Doing what? Municipal operations. He doesn't elaborate further, but the officer keeps pressing. Funny, he mutters. Guys doing municipal work usually driving sedans, not six-figure SUVs. The man replies calmly. People in municipal work come in different ranks. The officer scoffs. Yeah. What rank you? A high one. The officer smirks. Sure. He circles the Porsche again, runs the plate through his radio this time. Dispatch confirms the same information already on the card. Still, the officer isn't finished, because now pride is invested. So, why you parked out here instead of the garage? He asks. Valet directed me here? The officer looks toward the valet stand. One attendant nods faintly, confirming, but the officer still presses. You know how many stolen luxury cars we recover with fake paperwork? He says. I'm sure you recover many. The man replies calmly. This isn't one of them. The officer steps closer again, voice lowering. Because honestly, you don't look like someone who owns a Porsche. There it is again. Not suspicion of theft, suspicion of ownership. The man folds his hands calmly in front of him. And what exactly does someone who owns a Porsche look like? The officer shrugs. Not like you. Silence drops again. Body cam recording every word. Pedestrians are fully watching now because tone matters more than volume. And tone has crossed into profiling territory. The officer hands the registration back, but not respectfully, just enough to clear procedure while keeping suspicion alive. Well, he says, yawn until I'm sure everything checks out. You're not going anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere, the man replies calmly. I was waiting for a meeting. What meeting? Inside the building. With who? The man pauses slightly, then answers. The executive board. The officer chuckles. Yeah, yes. Doing what? The man looks at him directly now. Assuming command. The officer frowns. Command of what? The man adjusts his cuff slightly. Calm, measured, of the department. The officer blinks once, processing, not believing because the implication hasn't fully landed yet. And that misunderstanding is about to detonate the moment someone from inside that building walks out to greet him. Because the man he accused of stealing the Porsche didn't just own the vehicle. He outranked the badge questioning him. The officer stands a few feet from the Porsche SUV. He postures stiff, arms slightly flared from his sides like he's holding authority up physically. Across from him, the man remains calm, composed, still holding his phone and key fob, still not raising his voice, but the tension between them has shifted because the officer heard the words assuming command, and his mind rejected them instantly. Command of what? The officer repeats, tone sharper now, not curious. Challenging, the man meets his gaze evenly. Of the department, the officer scoffs loudly, actually laughs this time. Yeah. All right, he says, shaking his head. You expect me to believe that? I'm not asking you to believe anything, the man replies calmly. I'm stating why I'm here. The officer steps closer again, invading space. Now, people like you don't just walk into municipal buildings talking about taking command. There it is again, In the phrasing, not doubt about job title, doubt about who holds it. The man exhales slowly. Run my name. Oh, I will, the officer replies, because right now nothing about this adds up. He gestures toward the Porsche again. 6F Figueroa SUV, then toward the building. Executive meeting, then toward the man. And you standing here like you run the place? I do, the man replies. The officer smirks. Sure you do. Backup sirens chirp lightly behind them. Another patrol cruiser pulls up. Slow, not urgent, but the presence changes the energy instantly because additional officers mean additional witnesses, and additional witnesses mean escalation, either stabilizes or amplifies. 2 officers step out. They approach calmly, reading the scene before speaking. What's going on? One asks. The primary officer answers quickly, controlling the narrative. Possible stolen vehicle, he says, nodding toward the Porsche. Subject claiming ownership. Story not lining up. The backup officer looks at the man, then at the vehicle, then back at the primary. Plates run. Yeah, return. Registered to him. The backup officer pauses, then asks, So, what's the issue? The primary officer exhales sharply. Everything else? He gestures again, claims he's here to take command of the department. The backup officer looks at the man again, more carefully this time. Suit tailored, shoes polished, watch expensive but professional, not flashy. Executive presence, not criminal nervousness. Sir, the backup officer says calmly. What's your name? The man answers without hesitation. Commissioner Desmond Hale. The name hangs for half a second. The primary officer doesn't process it yet. But the backup officer's posture shifts slightly because that name sounds familiar. Commissioner? The primary officer repeats, skeptical. Yes. You mean like Chief's Office Commissioner? Yes. The officer laughs again, louder this time. Man, stop. He turns to his partner. You hear this? But the backup officer isn't laughing. He's studying the man more closely now. You got credentials on you? He asks. Yes. The man reaches slowly inside his jacket again. Deliberate, visible movement. He removes a leather credential wallet, hands it over calmly. The backup officer opens it, reads. His eyes pause slightly longer than expected, then shift up to the man, then back down again. Because what he's reading isn't security contractor clearance. It's executive municipal authority. City Seal Department insignia, formal appointment signature. The primary officer notices the pause. What? He asks. The backup officer doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he studies the credential one more time, then hands it back respectfully. A small gesture, but loaded with recognition. You might want to run that through dispatch, he says quietly. The primary officer frowns. Why? Just run it. Tone firm now. Professional, not optional. The primary officer grabs his radio, reads off the credential, ID, name, title, agency code. He waits. Static fills the air, but instead of casual dispatch chatter, the response comes back formal, structured, respectful unit requesting verification. Standby, a pause, longer than normal plate checks because Heil municipal credentials wrote through command databases, not patrol records. While waiting, the primary officer folds his arms again. Still defensive, I still not recalibrated. He leans slightly toward his partner and mutters, Watch, it'll come back. I administrative assistant or something. The backup officer doesn't respond because now he's watching the primary officer more than the suspect. Dispatch comes back on the radio, clearer this time, confirming identity. Commissioner D. Desmond Hale, recently appointed Chief of Police. Effective command transfer, scheduled today. Silence hits the sidewalk like a weight, heavy, immediate. The primary officer blinks once, didn't process it, keys the mic again. Repeat. Dispatch responds. Slower, deliberate. Subject on scene is confirmed. Incoming Chief of Police. Command assumption meeting scheduled at municipal headquarters. The radio goes quiet, but the silence that follows is louder. The backup officers straighten instinctively. Oh, subtle but automatic, because rank recognition doesn't require announcement. It requires confirmation, and confirmation just arrived. The primary officer lowers his radio slowly. Looks back at the man, different now, re-evaluating everything he said minutes earlier. Every accusation, every assumption, every phrase caught on body cam. "You're the new chief?" he asked. Commissioner Hale nods calmly. Yes, no arrogance, no raised voice, just confirmation. Pedestrians whisper louder now. Valley attendants staring openly, bones fully raised because the narrative flipped in seconds. The primary officer clears his throat slightly, trying to regain footing. "Well, you have to understand how this looked." Hale tilts his head slightly. "How did it look?" The officer gestures toward the Porsche again. Luxury vehicle, high crime auto theft patterns, and a suspicious loitering. Hale nods once. And what made it suspicious? The officer hesitates, because the real answer can't be spoken professionally. "You said cars like this don't belong to my kind," Hale says calmly. The officer doesn't answer, because body cam already preserved the statement. Denial would be pointless. Backup officers remain silent because now the issue isn't vehicle theft, it's officer conduct. Hale continues calmly. "You said I didn't look like someone who owns a Porsche." Silence. "You detained me beside my own vehicle." Silence again. "You dismissed my credentials before verifying them." The officer exhales slowly because every word is accurate, documented, time-stamped. Dispatch crackles once more. Command staff notified of arrival. Escort requested. When that line shifts the moment again, because now department leadership knows their incoming chief is outside and knows patrol officers are with him. The building doors open behind them. 2 command staff officers step out. Formal uniforms, command insignia visible. They scan the sidewalk, then see Hale, and immediately walk toward him with professional urgency. And the moment they reach of him, they salute, not casually, formally, publicly. "Chief Hale," one says, "apologies for the delay. The board is ready for you." The salute lands heavier than any dispatch confirmation, because now the hierarchy is visible, not just audible. The primary officer steps back half a pace, posture shrinking slightly, because authority just reversed in front of witnesses, and the realization settles fully. The man he accused of stealing a Porsche now outranks his entire chain of command. The 2 command staff officers remain standing in front of Commissioner. Now, Chief Desmond Hale, hands still at salute, posture locked, respect unmistakable, and the contrast between their demeanor and the patrol officer's earlier posture is stark, visible, documented. "At ease," Hale says calmly. They lower their hands immediately. One of them steps slightly forward. "We've been expecting you upstairs, Chief. The transition briefing is ready." Hale nods once, but he doesn't move yet because the moment on the sidewalk isn't finished. Not administratively, not ethically. He turns slowly back toward the patrol officer. Not aggressively, not emotionally, measured. The officer avoids direct eye contact at first, and radio still in hand, but silent now because the situation has fully reversed. "You approach me under the assumption I stole my own vehicle," Hale says calmly. The officer swallows slightly. No response comes because denial would contradict body cam footage. "You detained me beside property registered in my name." Silence. "You ignored valid registration." Silence again. "You dismissed credentials before verification." The officer exhales quietly because every line is procedurally accurate and recorded. Pedestrians nearby whisper openly now. Phones still raised. Ballet staff watching because the story flipped publicly. not privately. Hale continues. You said cars like this don't belong to my kind. The phrase hangs heavier, spoken back than it did spoken forward, because replayed bias sounds different when directed at accountability. The officer finally speaks. I was following suspicion indicators. Hale nods once. And what indicator identified theft? The officer hesitates. Vehicle class theft patterns. Which match what behavior? Pause. Littering. I was waiting for a meeting. Hale replies calmly. Backup officers remain silent because now they're witnessing procedural review in real time. Hale steps slightly closer. Not confrontational, just direct. Suspicion without articulation becomes profiling. The sentence lands instructional, not emotional. Training language, command language. The officer shifts his weight slightly, because this isn't just embarrassment, it's evaluative exposure. One of the command staff officers speaks quietly. Body cam is active, sir. Hale nods once. I'm aware, which means every word he's saying now is intentional. You didn't investigate a stolen vehicle. Hale continues calmly. Pause. You investigated whether I looked like someone who could own it. Silence blankets the sidewalk, because that distinction is the real issue, not paperwork, not procedure, perception. The patrol officer lowers his gaze slightly because rebuttal would require evidence, and there isn't any. Dispatch crackles again. Chief escort ready at main entrance. The command staff officer gestures politely toward the building, but Hale doesn't move yet. Not until the administrative moment closes. He looks once more at the patrol officer. Not hostile, measured. Authority isn't demonstrated by escalation, he says. Pause. It's demonstrated by judgment. The same lesson tone used in internal training briefings, but delivered live publicly. The officer nods faintly because acknowledgement is the only professional response left. Hale adjusts his cuffs slightly, suiting back into place, then reaches for the Porsche door. But before entering, he pauses again. One final clarification. You ran my plates, he says calmly. Yes, sir. They returned to me. Yes, sir. And you still detained me? The officer doesn't answer because the answer would confirm procedural failure. Hale nods once, not in anger. In closure, because the lesson has already landed. He turns toward the command staff officer. Let's not keep the board waiting. They nod and step aside respectfully. Ballet attendants straighten instinctively as he passes. Pedestrians part slightly, phones still recording. The patrol officers remain on the curb. Quieter now because the stop didn't end in arrest. It ended in exposure. Hale enters the building. Glass doors closing behind him. Reflection of patrol lights flickering across the surface as they shut. And on the sidewalk, the power dynamic lingers, because everyone present understands one thing now. The man accused of stealing a Porsche just walked inside to assume command of the department that accused him. Bodycam continues recording the patrol officer standing silently beside the SUV he thought was stolen, and that footage will travel far beyond this curb into supervisory review, command evaluation, conduct assessment, because once bias is documented on Bodycam, it stops being opinion and becomes evidence. If you're enjoying this documentary so far, and like and subscribe, because what comes next isn't just awkward silence, it's internal review, badge accountability, and a chief of police deciding what happens to the officer who profiled him on his first day in command. Bodycam footage keeps rolling even after Chief Desmond Hale disappears through the glass doors of headquarters. The patrol officer remains standing on the sidewalk, still silent. The black Porsche SUV sits exactly where it was, gleaming under midday sun, untouched, undisputed, registered to the man who just walked inside to assume command over the entire department. But the moment isn't over, because Bodycam doesn't stop when the confrontation ends. It records the aftermath, and the aftermath is where consequences begin forming. One of the backup officers exhales slowly, low enough not to escalate embarrassment, more but audible on audio. "Man," he mutters quietly, not judgmental, just processing what just happened. Another officer shakes his head faintly, because everyone present understands the weight of what just unfolded. Weapon proximity during a non-criminal contact, detainment posture without cause, profiling language documented on audio, credential dismissal prior to verification, not policy gray areas, clear review triggers. The supervising sergeant arrives moments later. Having monitored dispatch escalation tied to command staff notification, he steps out calmly, posture controlled, clipboard already in hand. Because supervisory arrivals after command contact always mean documentation, he approaches the group slowly. "What happened?" he asks. No accusation in his voice, just procedure. The primary officer answers first. Voice lower now than it was earlier. "Suspicious vehicle contact." The sergeant nods once. "Outcome." The officer hesitates half a second. "Vehicle registered to subject. Subject identity." Pause. "Chief Hale." The sergeant stops writing for a moment, looks up longer than usual, because hearing it secondhand lands differently than hearing it over dispatch. "You drew him out?" the sergeant asked. "No weapon drawn," the officer replies quickly, which is technically true, but the hand proximity, tone, and verbal escalation are still reviewable. The sergeant continues writing, "Credentials verified before or after detainment posture." After another note written, one of the backup officers adds quietly, "Command staff witness final interaction that matters." Because supervisor observation plus command presence elevates review classification automatically. The sergeant closes the clipboard slowly. "Body cam will be flagged for audit," he says calmly. Not punishment language, procedure language, but the meaning is understood. Use of contact review, conduct analysis, bias language assessment, command exposure evaluation. The patrol officer nods faintly because argument would be pointless. Body cam doesn't forget tone or phrasing or sequence. Across the street, civilians begin dispersing slowly. Phones lowering, conversation spreading, because public perception forms faster than internal review ever can. And today, perception wasn't shaped by rumors. It was shaped by footage. Inside the building, Chief Hale walks alongside command staff toward the executive conference floor. Professional pace, you're unhurried because composure is part of command presence. One of the deputy chiefs speaks quietly as they walk. "Sir, we were notified of the contact." Hale nods once. "I assume so. We'll initiate review." Hale stops walking briefly, turns slightly. Not angry, measured. "Make sure it's procedural," he says calmly. Pause, not personal. The deputy nods. "Yes, Chief," because Hale understands something critical. Accountability carries more weight when it's institutional, not emotional. Back outside, the patrol officers begin clearing the scene. But the energy is different now. Quieter, reflective, because embarrassment fades, but recorded conduct doesn't. One of the backup officers speaks quietly to the primary as they return to their units. "You got to run verification before narrative, man, not accusatory. Advisory field wisdom, pass peer to peer." The primary officer nods faintly. "I know, and he does now." Hours later, internal review flags are already logged because any body cam involving command personnel. Public profiling language escalated detention posture automatically roused to administrative evaluation. Not optional. Mandatory days pass. Footage reviewed frame by frame. Audio transcribed line by line. Training officers present during analysis, because moments like this don't just discipline, they instruct. Findings come back structured. Policy violations noted. Failure to articulate reasonable suspicion, escalation without behavioral indicators, profiling language inconsistent with conduct policy, credential dismissal prior to verification, disciplinary outcomes, follow departmental guidelines, formal written reprimand, mandatory bias recognition, retraining, a field conduct, probation review, temporary reassignment from proactive patrol, not career-ending but career-defining, because documented bias exposure attaches it to promotion pathways permanently. Weeks later, Chief Hale conducts his first department-wide briefing. Standing at the front of the auditorium, uniform pressed, command insignia now official. He doesn't mention the officer by name, doesn't reference the Porsche, doesn't recount the sidewalk encounter. Instead, he addresses the principle behind it. Authority, he says calmly, isn't proven by who you stop. Pause. It's proven by how you stop them. Silence fills the room. Because many officers already saw the footage during training circulation, he continues. Verification before escalation protects citizens. Pause. And it protects you. The lesson lands deeper than punishment ever could because it reframes procedure as protection, not restriction. Life moves forward. Patrol shifts continue. Calls still come in. Stops still happen. But one departmental change quietly follows the incident. New training module added. Ownership perception and bias. Recognition and high V value asset stops. Footage anonymized, but scenario unmistakable because real incidents teach better than hypothetical ones. Months later, the same patrol officer stands post at a community outreach event. Calmer measured interaction, slower verification first, because experience, especially documented experience, reshapes instinct. And across the city, Chief Hale continues command operations, policy reviews, community engagement, department restructuring. Even the Porsche still parked outside headquarters some mornings, still gleaming, still his. But now, no one questions ownership when he steps out, because the story didn't end at the curb. It traveled through training rooms, through command briefings, through policy updates, through officer mindset shifts, and body cam. It preserved everything not for punishment alone, but for institutional learning, because once bias is recorded, it can be corrected, and once corrected, it can reshape how authority is carried going forward.
We appreciate you tuning in. If this breakdown helped you understand the situation better, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay aware, stay protected, and we will see you next time.